Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage, and you're joining us on the podcast today, which is a special podcast that we've compiled just for you. Our theme today is content marketing, and we've taken some really interesting thoughts from a few previous guests, which would be Nadia Bilchik, Shep Hyken, and Phil Gerbicek, and sort of compiled that under the umbrella of content marketing, which we hope that you'd enjoy. Let us know what you think. Please feel free to share and comment on this, and enjoy. Thank you. Nadia is the president of Greater Impact Communications. She is an internationally renowned television personality, communication and professional development training expert, author, and keynote speaker. She's currently the editorial producer for CNN's Weekend Morning program. She's a sought-after moderator, and she's hosted events at places like Coca-Cola and WIT Connect. She's the author of 3 books. The Little Book of Big Networking Ideas is the latest. I've had the pleasure of working with her a couple of times over the years, and she is someone that could share some insight with us. So again, welcome, and I hope we've done your bio justice today. Tell me a little bit about the business side of your content, the business side of your thought leadership, and things that you're doing differently and things that you're doing more or less the same.
So I think the point of saying 2018, and we all know that this is the age and stage of multi-platforms, which means we don't just have a website and expect that people are going to find us on our website. So if I could say the biggest change as somebody who wants to get my message out and wants to impact more and more people is the ability to share content. And you do that so well, Peter, with your newsletter and your videos. So I would say I make a lot more videos, and I do it in a multitude of ways. And what I say to other speakers and people who are trying to do this, as you know, is you have to be able to be searchable and credible online. So that would be my first bit of advice is, and it can't just be one thing. So for me, I'm spending more time than ever on making sure my website is SEO friendly. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of research and really assessing what are your keywords, what do you offer, and it's not an instant process, as you know.
Yeah, this isn't a get rich quick business. So you put a lot out there. Let me unpack some of those gems because there's a lot there. So let's start with multi-platform. So the I believe, and I want you to clarify what you mean by multi-platform. It's not necessarily that you're selling your thoughts and ideas across multiple platforms. It's that you're available to be found there. Tell me about that a little bit. I think
that's put very well. And also, we're not sure where we impact people. So as professional speakers, as people in professional development, what is our goal? Our goal is that we reach as many people as possible. So ultimately, yes, we do want to be hired as speakers and as trainers. So just to, as you say, unpack, the vast majority of my work is keynote addresses and then training and development that follows. So do I want to capture more audiences? Yes. But how do I get people to know that I'm an expert in the area of networking or maximizing your presence or branding, personal branding, which is my key areas? So I have to make sure that people find me on YouTube, on my LinkedIn, on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on my Instagram, and just being aware of which platforms people are looking at and not being attached. I think that's a thing, Peter, is that you're never quite sure where people find you. You know, there's a random nature to the way social media is. So I want to try and crystallize it for your audience who are potential speakers and current speakers and thought leaders is you obviously want to establish yourself. So can I step back and say, as a producer at CNN, when I'm looking for somebody who's an expert in an area, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to search them online, right? Mm-hmm. And what comes up that really says this person is a thought leader and is an expert. So I often get asked, I want to be a speaker. I'm really good at, I've been in business for years. I've managed companies. I want to be a speaker. And I say this to you. I say, if I, as a producer at CNN, am going to recommend Peter Winnick as an expert in the area of leveraging thought leadership, it's very easy for me if I pitch you, because I might pitch you as a guest, but then I'm going to 5 other people to say why you should have this guy. And it's no different if you're hiring a speaker, right? one person hears me speak, or hears you
Yep.
speak, or hears any of the people who are listening to this speak and says, I've got this great speaker. I'd love to bring them in for this event. Well, the first thing everyone else is going to do is search you, because it's usually not up to one individual.
Correct. So it's really about being able to validate the brand and have the goods so that the person that brings you in the door can share that with somebody else, and that there's other folks involved in making the decision could understand why they chose A over B. So that's great. And just for the folks listening, again, this is a CNN producer, so I'm sure you get pitched with
I get pitched
all day and night.
all day and night. Now, I'll give you an example of somebody who is very good on air. And I wanted him to talk about entertainment. He had a radio show, and he's great on air. So same analogy as you're a great speaker. And I recommended him to talk about the Grammys.
Mhm.
But he has to go through 5 other people who say, let's have him. Well, they searched him, and there was nothing that came up online that said this person is a thought leader in their area.
That's a
My
problem.
point to all of you who are listening is, and that's to all of us, is to constantly say, now, I get people who say to me, somebody recommended you. Then I went on to nadiaspeaks.com. Then I saw X video, and it's often not the same video that they saw. Sometimes people will hire me from a YouTube video. I've got a YouTube video called
Yep.
Comeback Nerves with Nadia. Somebody saw that video the other day and called me to do a session. Sometimes it'll be directly from the website. Sometimes it will be from a newsletter video blog that I've sent out that someone's passed on to someone else. So what I'm saying to all of your audience, and I know, I mean, this is what you so deftly do for your clients, and you do it so well, Peter, which is understand that our audience often comes from places we don't expect. And are we establishing the kind of online credibility that says this person is a true authority on their topic?
Shep is a customer service and experience expert. He's the chief amazement officer at Shepherd Presentations. He's a New York Times and a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, and he's been inducted into the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame. He's a former NSA president. He's the author of Moments of Magic, The Loyal Customer, The Cult of the Customer, The Amazement Revolution, Amaze Every Customer Every Time, Be Amazing or Go Home. And he's also the creator of the Customer Focus, a customer service training program. So keynoting, we all get what that is, right? So you get there, you get up on stage, do your thing, whatever. Training face-to-face, I think we all get what that looks like. Let's talk about the digital, because ultimately, I think that's where the highest leverage, the highest scale, and ultimately the highest net contribution profit-wise once you amortize the cost of building something. But so tell me what you're doing in digital that's working, and how folks are consuming it, how you're selling it. Give me a sense of what that looks like.
Sure. And I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to surprise you. I'm not going to say it's going to blow your mind, but it's going to surprise you.
Great.
So what I did back in 2001, right after 9/11, I realized that we're another terrorist attack away from the annihilation of being hired as a keynote speaker. If that happened, people would start having meetings. That's how I got into the training business. Now, online training, there was a company, I was on the board of this company. If you wanted to have an online training program, a learning management system, LMS as it's called, you would, back in that time, it would have cost you, tens of thousands, if not $100,000 to get a halfway decent one. And even then it was cumbersome and complicated for the user. Well, over the last, I'm going to say 7 years or so, maybe 5 to 7 years, it's so easy, and the costs have come down. And there are organizations and companies like Kajabi or Udemy as very inexpensive resources where you can use their platform to place content. I went a different route. I went with another company, Lightspeed Virtual Training, Lightspeed VT, and I created 5 courses. And while expensive to create those courses, because I paid a lot of money to have my content put into video, it wasn't me doing it, homegrown, beautiful studios. It paid for itself rather quickly. So the concept is most of the time we have a monthly fee based on how many people are going to be using it. Many times, larger clients just assume pay for the whole thing at once instead of spreading it out over a year. For our thought leaders, let me tell you the importance of having it spread out over a year is because when you can create a contract where there's ongoing recurring revenue, that sounds nice for you as the thought leader. Oh, that's great. But no, what's nice is it's automatic payments that are made from a company, and our contracts state that 60 days out, you'll renew, and it will continue on month to month until you give us notice to stop it.
Yep.
You follow me? So I don't want a one-time payment for a one-year contract that I have to go back and
So that's a
renew
great point that you made, because let's look at the flip side of this, which is a little bit further down the road. And you're a former National Speakers Association president, so you can confirm this factoid I'll put out there. No one in the history of the speaking industry has ever sold their speaking business. Would you concur?
Well, okay. I don't think as a keynote
Straight up as a
speaker,
keynote speaker,
you can
right.
sell your keynote business. Right. It just can't happen. I sold a workshop seminar that I created back in the 90s and did quite well with it. But they were interested in the content and how we delivered it, which, by the way, is why the training company, if the sales get high enough, and especially the online, if the renewals are in the 80 to 90% range, and you build up several $1 million a year in ongoing revenue, you can sell that.
Well, and that's exactly where I was going, Shep, is nobody's going to come to you and say, Shep, here's, you did 50 speeches last year. I'll pay you 10 times EBITDA for the speaking, and then just the role of Shep will be played by Melvin. Not going to happen, right? But if you've got subscription-based revenue exactly on the digital piece, it's not dependent on you. It's a subscription-based revenue model. The EBITDA on that is nice. You could actually exit that business for a nice multiple. And I think oftentimes, particularly on the speaker side, they're not thinking long-term. It's a transactional business. I want to get my fee. I want to do more events, maybe raise my fee. But I think sometimes having that longer view and playing the long game and coming up with the product solutions and offerings that can actually have an exit could be a phenomenal game changer. If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. I've had the privilege of knowing Phil for quite some time. Phil is a sales and marketing technology speaker and trainer. He teaches people how to connect and use people and technology together in order to drive sales growth. He's written a book on LinkedIn and networking on LinkedIn and connecting on LinkedIn. He's got a course coming out on that. He is someone who has leveraged his content and is continuing to be creative and innovative in the ways that he does that. So welcome aboard today, Phil, and thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Peter. It's great to talk to you, buddy.
Paid or unpaid? I think sometimes, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, people get obsessed with speaking for fees. Now, if all you do is speak professionally, I get it, right? You're not going to give that away because that's the product. But I think in a case like yours, which is more common than most, it's great to get paid to speak, right? But you also have to make some decisions to say, is that event worth my time, energy, and effort because it's the right audience? And then, geez, if the only thing getting in between me and getting in front of 300 target people is a couple of bucks for a gig, I'm willing to waive that. So tell me how you go through that decision-making process.
Yeah, well, you nailed it there at the end, Pete. It's all about, who's going to be in the audience. Can they do that? Do I have something they can buy? Are they my target audience? What does it take for me to get to that event? So, if you're going to pay for my expenses, I'll speak, in a lot of places, take a day off my calendar because I'll make sure that I invest my time in the front and the back end to understand that target and to make sure that I have something relevant for them to buy. So I'll go talk to just about any group if they're a target audience, if they are willing to let me at least mention the fact that I have a product. And of course, speaking about something like sales and marketing, I mean, there's no way, even if I did a full day seminar for free, which I wouldn't do a full day, but I'm just saying, if I did a full day, there's still way more that I could offer to customize that would make it useful for them, that they could buy that. So as long as they let me mention that, that's usually good. Now, if they don't, then they got to pay. If they're not going to let me sell, then they got to pay. Let's just be honest, right? If I'm going to give you value, then you've got to pay for it and you won't let me extract any back. Okay, that's fine. Because it's all about a value exchange. It's not just about quote unquote getting paid, right? So I might even waive my fee. Like this year, I really want to get some bigger stage video. So I might waive my fee to get on a bigger stage and share my thought leadership so that then I can get to an even bigger audience.
So the exchange there is the video. So one of the things I always find fascinating on the speaker side is clients or prospects are not afraid to say to a speaker, hey, if you do this one, wow, this is going to lead to lots of other things and blah, 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 even if it's not your target market. And I say to myself, geez, I can't go to my dentist and say, you know, if you do this cleaning really good, there's a good chance I'll be back and throw you a cavity next year, right? Like he's going to look at me like I'm out of my mind. But for some reason, people don't look at speaking the buyers as a business that has cost of goods, that has opportunity cost, that the value that you're putting out there. So, you know, you're making the decision, you're selecting the criteria that says, yeah, that one makes sense. That's putting me in a bunch of front of folks, or I want to get collateral of me in front of 1,000 people or whatever the case is. But if it doesn't meet criteria, you're not afraid to say no, I hope.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And you have to be willing to say no. I mean, otherwise you're kind of just selling yourself for whatever pays.
Got it. So a couple other thoughts I want to hear from you is, given that you've been around this space for some time, I'd say what, 10 plus years, Phil?
Yeah, 10 or almost 15. Yep.
Almost 15. Wow. We're all aging here. A youthful 15. So you started in diapers or something there.
There you go.
Give me a sense from a trend perspective of things that used to work really well, either for you or others that you've observed, that just, you know, nobody's getting the juice out of that lemon anymore. And conversely, things that are newer onto the scene that are gaining traction and then people should be considering and thinking about. What should I do less of and what should I do more of?
Yeah, so do less, boring origin story type speaking. So, spending 15 minutes to get to the point of now I'm ready to start. Basically, doing your introduction for 15 minutes doesn't work. I mean, not that your origin story isn't important, but it's not 15 minutes important. And it's also no longer the case that everybody is scared to death to get in front of an audience, because now, with more video, people are getting more and more comfortable in front of the camera, which means they're more and more comfortable in front of an audience. If they're taking selfies, they're probably comfortable in front of an audience, maybe not for an hour, but for a couple minutes.
Got it. Okay.
So that doesn't work. It also doesn't work to, tease information and then only offer the solution as a sale. You have to give some value in the program, regardless of whether or not you're being paid for it. Because if you don't, they're not going to think that your program has any value. So let's say you have 10 problems that you solve. Well, only one of them do you solve maybe, or two of them do you solve in your program that you give away. But you'd have to really help them and demonstrate that you can help them. So used to be not that game.
And I had this conversation with someone the other day where that holdback mentality is so dated, right? So the reality is, if you've got the secret, whatever that is, or you've got a methodology, a process, something that you've discovered, geez, share it, right? So we were just talking earlier today, Phil, on some things that, you and I are both doing on LinkedIn, whatever. Share it, because guess what? There's a subset of people that would listen to that would never be your client anyway, but now they're going, hey, that Phil's a smart guy. He taught me something. Maybe at some point in the future, they become a client. And then there are more of those that fit into your client profile that say, wow, he's got a point of view, he's got some expertise, he's got some proven track record. Let me give it to him. But this holdback of, take out your American Express or something and it's $99.99 today and you'll get the secret. I think people are smarter than that right now. That's a very consumer psychology based play that just is quite frankly intellectually offensive to most.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that's really the case, that you cannot be that holdback person. But we talk about what's working, which I think is honestly just a lot more interesting. And that is, first of all, relationships are working. So if you've been building relationships, and I've been fortunate, as you said, Pete, we've known each other like 10 years, man. We totally refer each other business, right? Yep. We talk to each other. We know what each other does. That relationship that you've built. So that means you started yesterday. You didn't start today trying to build your network, but relationships work. If you've been giving for a long time, Pete, you're great at this, man. You give a lot of value. People are able then to refer you business, even if they've not done business with you, which is pretty cool. So relationships are really working. And along the lines of relationships, that's why LinkedIn works so well. If you're willing to give, if you're willing to build relationship, and if you're not just showing up and throwing up. LinkedIn works really, really well if you have a target, if you have a good message, and if you really customize that to the person that you're trying to talk to, it can work incredibly well. So that works really well. And along those lines, so do webinars where you offer some value and then you have a follow-up that goes deeper in order to really, really fix a problem.
Well, and a big thank you today to Nadia Bilchik, Phil Gerbachep, and Shep Hyken for sharing their insights, which are varied and incredibly valuable to all of us on content marketing today. So I want to thank those three folks, and I hope you enjoyed this compilation episode. Thanks so much. To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.